Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Dear viewers everywhere, we are talking about different techniques of using. We can use them, the teachers can use them in classroom to enrich the learning of the students. We say that it is very important that the teacher would vary his or her techniques from time to time in order to address the needs of all students, because we mentioned earlier that each student has his own or her own learning style. We were talking in the previous episodes particularly about different experiences that we had in our teaching experience, and we wanted to share them. Some of you talked about this, and we want now to come close to the most important thing is that now if we are teaching hadith, let's focus on hadith now. Tell me the different techniques that you can use if you are teaching hadith, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Bear in mind that all the time you would have your objectives clearly presented to the students, and you want to achieve these objectives. And based on these objectives, you are going to use some teaching methods. What are the methods or the techniques that you can use to teach hadith effectively? I know it's not easy, it's very challenging. Let's say that you are a teacher of hadith. One way of teaching it is definitely you open the book, right? You read the hadith by yourself, and then you start explaining it. What are other ways? Okay, elaborate on this. Yes.
Well, keeping in mind the knowledge, concept, and skills, I would distribute the students in groups, and then one group will be speaking on weak hadiths.
On what?
Focusing more on the weak hadith,
Okay.
Da'if hadith. Okay, one on the authentic hadith, the collection of authentic hadiths. They will practice it, and then later on come up to what all they have gathered, the knowledge, the concepts, by speaking it out, which is the skill part.
Okay, there is something good here that you are trying to use techniques to help you differentiate between the knowledge and concepts and skills. But why would you teach a weak hadith? Can you explain?
I won't be teaching them weak hadith.
Okay.
Because they need to know that hadiths they have different...
It's authentic.
Yes, whether
So
it is...
what you're saying here, one student would be using, for example, the internet or a reference book, right? And to tell us from the beginning, this hadith is authentic and it had been narrated by such a thing. And he would have the evidence with him,
Yes.
right? Whether it's a book, whether it's from the internet, okay? So good, very good. From the very beginning, so the students are, yes, giving attention to the degree of the hadith. Is it authentic or non-authentic? And they are doing here, they are developing the skill of research, at least one student. It's not necessarily would be the same student. Every day you can change, right, the student who is doing the research so that most of the students would acquire this skill. This is something good. Okay, what else? Okay, hadith.
So in the senior KG class, I did a role play on the hadith of when you are two should not speak secretly, excluding your companion, for that makes him sad. So they did role play. The three girls, they come together. Then two, they start talking in secrecy. And the third one, she's in a very sad mood and she starts crying. So in that way, I taught them the hadith and we did a role play.
Okay, so you are saying teaching the content of the hadith through role playing
method. Yes.
This is very good. Role playing, it's a key word that we need to focus on. Let the students play the roles, right? Because it's very important. And this really reminded me of another experience that I had. This was a wonderful place to visit. I have seen a teacher of math, but he was, not in the class of math. He was teaching a drama lesson, drama. So the concept that he was teaching, and I want you to do it exactly as I ask you, please do. He was teaching the students the role of the mirror. The mirror reflects, yes, okay. So now if I do something, imitate me, please do. I'm sorry, you're wrong. Yes, because when I raise my right hand, you should raise your left hand. If you are playing the role of the mirror, right? If you are a mirror, so you're going to raise your left hand. Am I right? If I'm looking at the mirror now and I raise my right hand, how would I see myself? I would see the left hand, right? So he was trying to explain this, and he made it, yes, more complicated after that. So I thought that this is really a wonderful thing. Let me tell you something that what we teachers do in reality, we fight amongst ourselves to get an impact on the brain of the student. And the more impact we have, the more lasting it will affect them in their lifetime. So that's why we need to be creative in thinking of ways like this. You understand what I'm saying? So you can introduce a very small technique in the beginning in order to attract them to what you're going to say and explain. I'm quite sure that it will remain in their brains for a long time. I'm giving you another experience that I had when I was a student in the university, 30 years, 40 years, anyway, between that. And the teacher was teaching us poetry. And he wrote something on the board and asked us to copy it from the board. So all of us were very busy copying what he wrote on the board. And he went to the back of the class, and then he hit a disc. I don't want to hit it hard, it will break. He made a strong break. It has great impact on us. All of us were scared. And this was the title of the poem, A Sudden Blow. I remember this for the last 35 years. It's just a small thing that he did, right? However, it impacted us. So this is what I'm saying, that this is a technique, a good technique of making students focusing on what is going on. So you can think of different things like this, because these are tools to make the students are attached to you and are attached to the lesson. You see what I'm saying? The small technique now. It's not using something big, video clip, or yes, a show or a role play, this small thing. Now we talked about small technique, we talked about role playing, we talked about in action, teaching in action. We talked about what else? Field trips. We talked about student reading, making research skills in the classroom. What else did we take? We talk about. What else do you want to talk about? You have to be very creative, and that's why at the end of the lesson, and I stressed this yesterday, if you ask your students, especially the young ones, not the old ones, right? The young ones, not you, Sheikh, not you, Sheikh, no, you're still young. How would you do this lesson differently? What would you do to make the lesson having more impact on you than what I've done? I'm quite sure the young students will give you ideas that you've never thought of. Never. They are so fresh, they are so flexible, they are so creative, they are not like us. When we do something and we do it the second day or the third day, it becomes very difficult for us to change it. For them, no. And they can do anything new, has the same talent as if they have done it many times. So use your talents, and most of us don't use it. Ask your children, ask the students. And that's why I say that when you give opportunities to students to make the presentation, to lead the class themselves, you will learn from them much, much, much more than what you learn now. And that's why give the opportunity to children. Okay, study the lesson, tell me how you're going to present it, meet with the student and listen to him, try to modify what he or she has, and let him come on the stage for 5 minutes or for 3 minutes or 4 minutes, and so on and so forth. I remember that I got a course in learning reading. And the teacher of the course, all of us were on doctoral level. And the teacher was a high school teacher. And I think this was one of the best courses that I studied in the doctoral level. One of the ways that the teacher, one of the things that I remember, that there were stories that we were asked, each one of us was asked to present a story that he loved very much, to come and present it to the others. And we were approximately 28 students. And each one of us took around 4 minutes or 5 minutes to present his story or her story. We found wonderful things that's happening. Amazing thing. I wish that I would have recorded this, yes, by camera, but I didn't. One of the students, yes, dimmed all the lights and let the audio recorded thing play. It's the waves of a sea, And she was sitting and with a candle, right, close to her, and she started narrating the story that she read, summing it up. The impact of it was amazing. Just a candle, dim place, and she was just saying the thing that she wanted. Nobody saw her even. But it had an impact on us, so beautiful impact on us. And in 5 minutes' time, we learned what the story talked about. Try to imagine, in 5 minutes' time, you learn what a whole story is. Stories are very important. Even if you're not teaching stories and reading, it's still essential, and you can use them in teaching hadith. You can use them in teaching Quran, in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. So just get the technique and try to apply it in a way that helps you connect with the material that you are teaching. We'll take a break, and inshallah we'll come back. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Hush, little baby, breathing so calm.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back after the break. I hope you drank something soft and soft drink, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. We were talking about some examples of using different techniques, different methods, different strategies in order to help students learn more and more. Usually when we talk about the use of different methods, it's linked in a way or another with the resources that you have. I remember one student who was talking, yes, he was explaining when I was training the teachers, and he was acting 2 roles at the same time. Conversation. And he had one hat, Indonesian hat, and he would use the hat, right? And don't use the hat. He would take it and put it, yeah. And he represents the father, and he would put the hat on his head. And then when he wants to act as the child responding to the father, he would take it, right, and respond to this. It's very limited resources, but he was playing 2 roles at the same time. Another thing that's very important, yeah. Okay, this was his way of presenting this conversation. Try to imagine that if you use the available technology, if you get something recorded, 2 different voices, it has more impact than the impact of one person doing 2 roles. If you have a video clip that shows the sound and the action, it's much stronger. And we will elaborate this more when we talk about the use of media in classrooms. Now let's move to the last part of this, which is what would you do? Now, based on the experience that we shared with each other, what would you change in your class when you go to your class tomorrow? Now, we're not specific to one specific subject. You can apply it to any subject. Tell me, what are you going to change, inshallah, next week? What are you going to do differently? Yes? You can tell me that you will sit on the chair, right? And let the students act, yeah.
We can use many props, as you
Prompts.
suggested. Props, for example, like a hat, or something like chocolates you can give the students.
Remember that I told you that when I ask this question, you tell me that I will.
I will,
Don't tell me
inshallah.
probably. Yeah, we will do that. Say, I will do this, inshallah.
I will do this, inshallah.
Okay. What will you do?
Use of props,
Props.
like
How would you use them? Tell me the subject. Explain a little bit about the background of it. How would you use them?
like for example, if you are narrating one hadith,
Okay, teaching hadith.
and use some kind of props. If the prop is about eating, like as Brother Kaleem gave an example of a chocolate, I mean, he distributed chocolates. So before eating the chocolate, you can say Bismillah and then eat. So in that way, you can also explain the hadith by the use of the props.
Good. I think that you are so hungry, yeah. That's why you selected the example of chocolate. Okay, good. This is a good technique. One way of teaching hadith, by the way, that you can teach the hadith in its wrong format. Then ask them, yes, if this hadith is correct or incorrect. Make slight change in it. Like the hadith, the famous hadith about this is طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. Is this correct or incorrect hadith? طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم ومسلمة. Correct or incorrect? Sisters, incorrect? What's incorrect?
Seeking knowledge is compulsory on every Muslim.
Okay. So what's wrong in the hadith?
Second latter part you added.
The second part, which is
It's incorrect. The
Muslima.
Yes.
Yes. The meaning of the hadith is that it is an obligation on every Muslim and Muslimah. The meaning is correct, right? But the text itself is not correct. The text itself says that it should be طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. Period. The word كل Muslim implies Muslim and Muslimah. You see what I'm saying? So you can come up with the wrong hadith, the wrong text, and say that, is there anything wrong with that? There are many hadiths that you can teach them. So this is another technique that you can bring the incorrect form, right? And you can cross the wrong thing so they would all the time remember this, that this is incorrect. This is another way of teaching it. Tell me, what are you going to do in your class? Next week, tomorrow? No one. Okay? Yes?
Inshallah, I would preferably narrate a hadith and then ask objective questions from them.
Such as?
For example, it's mentioned in Bukhari, Kitabul Ilm, once the women approached Prophet ﷺ and requested him that if he can appoint a particular day to narrate hadith or give lessons. And he agreed, and Thursday night was chosen.
Okay.
So then I would ask, what are the 3 lessons of fiqh that you get from one hadith?
Okay, so what are the lessons, fiqh lessons that you can get from hadith?
Number 1, can women approach an imam
Okay.
and request him for a separate lesson?
Okay.
Number 2, yes, he can. Number 3, can a fixed day be appointed for females to learn from the imam?
Okay. So what you're trying to do is to link between fiqh and hadith.
Yes.
That's what I
In
understand.
through objective questions.
Through objective question. Good. This is good. I hope you do this. When I come to your class, I would see this. Did you do this before?
Yes.
So if you do it before, so how can you promise us that you're going to do?
No, I'll update it after
Okay.
going all through.
Okay, we want new experiences that based on, we want you to think now of something that you would make differently. All the time we have to reason to ask yourself, why am I doing this? What is the objective behind this exercise or this change in the technique that I am making? Okay, again, remember that the tools that you have, one picture would help you a lot. There is a teacher, a very famous researcher, who had a research about how to teach 500 words from a map, picture of a map. And he could teach 500 words from the map. 500 words in a language is something so huge. Try to imagine that the amount of words that you use in your own language usually do not exceed 2,000 words. If you gather all the words that you speak and all the words that you write, you will find yourself moving within maximum 2,000. It will be very smart if you use 2,000 words. Most of the words are repetitive, so they're not new words. We're not using a lot of new vocabulary. We are using a specific number of vocabulary. So 500 words from a map is something amazing. The colors, the natural phenomena, the direction, east and west and north and southeast, southwest, and yes, and many other, the rivers and the plateau and many other things that he proved that he can teach through a map. So just having this idea in your mind opens up many opportunities for you to teach many things. So try to have things that are really beneficial in your book, and that you can use them from one lesson into another. I told you the maps are one of them. What else do you think that you can put in your classroom that you can use if you don't have access to the internet? If you have access to the internet, this will help you a lot. But if not, what are the things? Think of something that you can put all the time and you use them. What are the things that you need to use all the time in many of the lessons? Do you think multiplication table? You can use the multiplication table if it is there, because you can use it a lot. It saves a lot of time, okay? And you can test students to do it from time to time. What else?
So I can have a chart of family tree of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the
Family
link.
tree of
Yes.
the Prophet
Yeah,
*Sallallahu Alaihi
so
Wasallam.
again and
This
again I
would
can
be
use
wonderful. This would be wonderful. It really, and the most important thing is that you use it frequently. You use it frequently. Don't put it there because it is there. It's so done beautifully. Okay. More importantly, instead of you buying these things ready-made, you ask students to do them. There is a big difference when 2 or 3 students make something like this, produce something like this, so they feel that they are related to it. And you can buy it in cheaper money or something like this. But when these students would be very proud, oh, we are the ones who produced it. We are the ones who produced it. Okay. What else can you add?
Timeline of the life of the Prophet ﷺ, right from his
Very good. This is another thing.
identifying the main
Timeline
events.
of, yes. And this year he made the hijrah, and this year he was born. Of course, he was born before the hijrah, yeah. And this year, right, he did this and this and this. This would help students keep this information, yes, because you remember the information when it is fresh, but you forget it when you have many other information added to it. So keeping these things, and you can, by the way, replace them. Let's say that they stayed on the walls for 2 months. You can take them, bring others, and after 2 months, bring them back. You see what I'm saying? So, okay. But again, the key word here is that you use them. What else? I've seen a hand here. No? This would be the last one. Yes? Good. What else can you add?
On the similar lines regarding the family tree, we can also tell the students to give us a chronological order of the prophets which came, along with the specific miracles what they were given, or some important message that they had for the people. So they have the timeline of the prophets when they came,
Yeah.
and the specific miracles as well as some important points. So that all the prophets mentioned in the Quran, the students have an idea of that. It would help them.
It needs a lot of work, but it is a good work. Also, adding to the timeline of the Prophet ﷺ, it would be something I think important if you put the dates in Hijri and in Gregorian beneath each other. So students all the time would have the link between the Hijri and Gregorian dates. So you are achieving from this a lot of things if you have these in your class. Because these are some techniques. You invented the technique and you are using it. And this week it's in your place. It will be borrowed by another teacher because he or she is teaching the same thing. And again, the more you make a variety of these, the better for students to learn. Okay, and that's why we see the quality of students in some schools are better than the quality of students in other schools because the teacher is doing this. He understands how students learn. Jazakumullahu khairan. This is the end of this episode. Inshallah, I'll meet you in another episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Little baby, pure and small, he created you, he created us all. Hush, little baby, don't you fear, we're never alone when Allah's so near. Hush, little baby, breathing so calm, he'll protect us all and keep us from harm. Hush, little baby, still and serene, you are a Muslim, Islam's your deen. Hush, little baby, pure and small, he created